For me, till date, when I think of how I'm so afraid of failure that I overperform, and that like I'll really put myself through the ringer just to like control situations, to overperform. I have a choice, which is unfortunately where conventional therapy is lacking, in my opinion, and it loses out on the benefit it can give it, like the human soul. Instead of me just saying to myself right now and keeping myself safe in the moment and being like, you have nothing to fear, you have, of course I have something to fucking fear, because this is what's in my blood, this is in my DNA. So just talking to myself and saying, you have nothing to fear right now, it's okay, the situation's not that bad, you won't really fail. It's not easy because my trauma is fucking like stitched into my nervous system. So to unstitch it, I have to go back to, when is the first time that I really feared failure so much? When is the first time that I really was oppressed or shunned, or I was conditioned so heavily to be afraid to fail by my parents or by anybody else because they used love as a bargaining chip? They said to me, whether it was verbally or not, if I came home with a grade C report card, maybe I didn't get like some certain nice things. My report card didn't go on the fridge. Maybe even I got beaten, but that's an extreme. Even if I just didn't get a hug or something, when I came home with an A, if I kept getting hugs, like, celebration and went on the fridge and all of that, then that becomes my idea that, you know what, bro, you can't fucking afford to fail or to get a C, because if you do, no one's going to love you. So that was my first identity of like when I need to go back and reparent myself and create safety. And I remember for me, it was with sports, because I was like in many different sports performing. And I remember when I was playing tennis that so clearly, I remember this moment, how my dad acknowledged me when I won or when I played, and how my dad just walked away when I failed. And how my dad didn't really recognize me when he didn't have to criticize me, shame me, judge me, or anything. But I would look back to look at his reaction, and it just looked like he was so bored almost and frustrated. And so I had to go back to that inner child, that child version of me playing. And I had to go back and hug him and rub his back. Like in my meditations, I actually do that. And I'll be like, you know what? I don't give a fuck whether you win or lose. All I really care about is that you have fun. All I care about is that you go after what you want in this moment. However you want to play your game, whatever style you want to do it, etc. That was my version of reparenting in that particular episode. But yours, it'll have to be going around that moment where your safety was robbed. And instead, you, as Sam today, showing up like a hero in that moment, grabbing your inner child and saying, I refuse to let anything happen to you because you are so fucking beautiful and powerful to me. Nobody on this planet deserves to violate your trust. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to hold you true. I'm going to keep your love. If we do that multiple times continuously, and as you've been through the gauntlet, you've seen how we do it with like the deep meditations, the subconscious work. If we're able to do that continuously, in the moment, today we start feeling like a warrior. Why? Because we're showing up for a version of ourselves that was never showed up for. And so if someone else now, let's say we have a semi or an abusive ex or a potential of someone who's abusive or a boyfriend or girlfriend come into our lives, we're like, get the fuck away from me or else I'll break your toes. Whereas earlier, we were probably in a place where unconsciously we allowed the red flags, the red flags, the red flags. And then it went finally into that place where maybe it showed up in the car, or the abuse showed up in the car or the bedroom or wherever. Whereas if we were reparenting ourselves so much, it would stop right at the fucking dating app. When you just even sense that this is not it, you're like, I'm not fucking handling this bullshit. Get the fuck away. You don't even have to say it that way. You're just like, no, I'm sorry. There's no real room for you in my life. And that's how energetically, by reparenting ourselves, we change how we experience the world, because we no longer repeat the experience of trauma. We repeat the experience of the reparenting. And then the reparenting story, you're saving that child. That child is protected. That child is loved. That child is like, is wanted. That child is so important that you are refusing to let anything happen to her at that point. And that's what she now in your present moment starts to build and to understand. The last point I want to say about this to a lot of you who are like, well, yes, this sounds like basically you're telling me to go back and fucking change my past. I can't change my past because it's already happened. That's not what I'm asking you to do. But here's what's so fucking crazy. If you want to get into the real science of it, which I'm going to break it down for you in neuroscience, the only moment that actually exists right now, truthfully, is the present. And all of you will agree, because you can't do anything. Everything that's in the past is actually stored as binary digits in your brain, which is the head of your nervous system. which means everything that actually happened in your past, whether it was real or not, the only reason you know it is because your brain is storing into it in like a little hard drive. So what happens if there's two things? One is when you rip out that hard drive, what happens? People have memory loss, right? You talk to people, especially as they get Alzheimer's and stuff, and that part of their brain doesn't exist. They don't even know if something has happened or not. It may have happened, but to them it hasn't. That's their only experience. That's one aspect. But the other aspect of it is, which is more important, your brain is so powerful, and yet it doesn't know how to distinguish between something is actually real and when it's not. All it perceives is how it's interpreting information. What this means is your brain, that's why you can actually manifest, because you're converting energy into matter. That's metaphysics. You're converting the energy of your belief into what you deserve, and that's what you attract, right? Otherwise, how can you guarantee yourself money with abundance? It's a belief, because your belief is telling your brain, this is what I believe in myself. Your brain is now acting in a series of like ways that way, which attract that abundance of relationship, life, whatever else. But why it's important here is you can therefore, if you can tap into your subconscious, you can rewrite the stories of what actually happened to you. It doesn't mean you can change your past. There are two very different things I'm saying. Doesn't mean you change your past, but you create a version that you now believe, which changes the way you see yourself. And your brain factually can actually believe that. That's the power of visualization. That's the power of meditation. That's the power of healing your nervous system. And this is all fact. You can research it. This is the power of the brain. I don't even know who or why or what created it, but I feel like the universe or God created it with this irony to say, yes, you may have fucked up moments, but I'm also giving you the power to have the most infinite ones. What are you going to choose you want to work with? And that's the point of the reparenting.
Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.